This week on Life in the Park, the city wants to hear from you regarding regulation of polystyrene containers. Hey, who has the right of way, and what goes up must come down. Plus, more news you can use.
Welcome to this week's edition of Life in the Park. I'm Mary Schreier. In our cover story, crosswalk safety is being promoted throughout St. Louis Park, and we'll clarify who has the right of way in crosswalks and trail crossings in the park. That's coming up, but first, here's news you can use. After nearly 30 years, the iconic Tucker Treehouse is slowly being dismantled. Mark Tucker created a 7-tiered treehouse that once inspired childlike fantasies and brought tourists from all over the country to visit his property in the park. He has until the end of the year to remove the nearly 30-year-old treehouse because he can no longer maintain it to city regulations. He has decided to take it down level by level. He started tearing down in July by removing the top levels and expects to complete the process within a couple of weeks. The treehouse had 7 levels of tiny rooms and balconies wrapped around a massive maple tree, with original construction costing $18,000. It's been called an architectural marvel by some, while some neighbors referred to it as a distraction. Only 2 levels of the iconic St. Louis Park treehouse remain now. Tucker says he's trying to take it all down before it gets too cold, and the city says it will continue to work with him. The general election for St. Louis Park mayor, 2 council members, and 4 school board seats takes place November 3rd, and absentee voting is now available at City Hall. Details are available on the city website, slpmn.us/elections. The St. Louis Park City Council is considering regulation of polystyrene containers in the city. After discussion of the topic and hearing from an expert panel of industry representatives and interested stakeholders, city staff prepared a draft ordinance regarding regulation of polystyrene containers, which was presented to the City Council at a study session on August 10th. City Council now wants to hear from residents, business owners, and others who are interested in this topic and who would like to provide feedback on the proposed draft ordinance regulating polystyrene by attending a public listening session Monday, October 12th at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers at St. Louis Park City Hall, 5005 Minnetonka Boulevard. This session will be televised live on Park TV and will also be available for viewing after the session. If you're unable to attend the listening session and would like to make your comments part of the public record, please send them to Kayla Fisher, Solid Waste Program Coordinator, at kfisher@stlouispark.org or call 952-924-2183. Comments may also be shared via My St. Louis Park at mystlouispark.org. More details about this issue can be found on the city website at slpmn.us/polystyrene. The Minneapolis City Council gave municipal consent to a revised design and budget for the Southwest Light Rail, which will extend the Green Line from Target Field to Eden Prairie. The city was final local government to give its consent for the project that, if built, will be the state's most expensive public works project. The September 25th vote followed consent given earlier by Hennepin County and by St. Louis Park, Hopkins, Minnetonka, and Eden Prairie. Also, the Minneapolis Parks and Recreation Board gave approval to design concepts for bridges over the Kenilworth Channel. The 3 bridges, one for freight, one for light rail, and one for bikes and pedestrians, have also been approved by the Historic Preservation Office because they impact historic resources. The approval is significant because it furthers an agreement made by the Park Board and Met Council in February that ended threats of litigation over the project. You are invited to take a walk along a 1/4, 1.5, or 2-mile route led by Health in the Park's Active Connections Action Team members. This event is open to community members of all ages and abilities. No fee or registration is required. Meet at Lenox Community Center, 6715 Minnetonka Boulevard on Saturday, October 10th. Check-in begins at 9 a.m. and walks will occur from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Refreshments, prizes, and tours of remodeled Lenox will be available. This event is co-sponsored by Health in the Park's Active Connections Action Team and the Lenox Community Center. With mental health being Health in the Park's focus this year, they are challenging St. Louis Park to take the pledge to make it okay to talk more about mental illnesses. Mental Illness Awareness Week is October 4th through the 11th. Will you do your part to erase the stigma surrounding mental illness? Visit makeitokay.org and take the pledge to make it okay. Stay up to date with Health in the Park by liking their Facebook page, facebook.com/healthinthepark, and following them on Twitter at HIPSLP. The city has a limited supply of high-quality compost from the Organics Recycling Program available for you to use in your garden. Stop by the brush drop-off site during these hours of operation to get your compost. Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., Sundays, noon to 4 p.m., Tuesdays, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The site is located at 2501 Edgewood Avenue South at the intersection of Cedar Lake Road and Colorado Avenue South. The finished compost is available on a first-come, first-served basis. Residents are allowed to take up to 3 5-gallon buckets worth of compost. And now to our cover story. Life in the Park presented Crosswalk Safety Part 1 last month, and we'll follow up today with Part 2, which explains who does have the right-of-way in crosswalks and trail crossings. There has been some confusion, mainly at our busy trail crossings. Take a look.
Park TV is at the trail crossing on Beltline Boulevard next to Highway 7 to ask pedestrians and cyclists who has the right-of-way. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah?
We're just doing a video on who has the right-of-way at the trail crossing. So
Okay.
Who do you think has the right-of-way?
I think cyclists and pedestrians have the right of way.
Actually, at this trail crossing, the cars have the right-of-way. Who has the right-of-way at this trail crossing?
If I stop and I start going and there's a car coming, they have to stop.
At this trail crossing, who has the right-of-way?
They do.
At this trail crossing, who has the right-of-way?
The cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's important to note that pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists must each take responsibility for safely navigating our streets, trails, and sidewalks. Remember, you can keep up to date in the park by visiting our Facebook page at facebook.com/St. Louis Park or check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/St. Louis Park. That's it for this week's edition of Life in the Park. Thanks for watching. Join us next week for another edition of Life in the Park right here on Park TV.
My name is Blake. I received a heart transplant when I was 2 weeks old. I play defense for the Red Hot Tornadoes. Sometimes my heart starts pounding like faster and faster as I go. I know I have someone else's heart inside me. It makes me feel happy because someone was generous enough to give me a second chance to live.
This gift of life was made possible by an organ donor. Imagine what you could make possible. Sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.